Marvel villains like Loki and Thanos don't just steal the show, they steal our memories, while DC's heroes seem to slip away. We talk about Marvel's villains long after the credits roll, but DCEU's heroes seem to fade from our memory. Remember the moment when Thanos snapped away half the universe? It was breathtaking, unforgettable. Now think about Superman's big return in Justice League. Doesn't quite hit the same, does it?
He's back.
Did you realize we are not comparing Marvel's heroes with DC's? We're literally comparing Marvel's villains with DC's heroes. Sounds crazy, right? But think about it. Why do villains like Thanos and Loki leave a lasting impression, while Superman and Batman, being superheroes, struggle to do the same? There's something mind-blowing happening beneath the surface. Stick around and we'll break it all down. When you think of the MCU, it's impossible to ignore just how well they've built up their universe since 2008. Starting with Iron Man, they created a world where characters grow, evolve, and impact each other across multiple films. This has allowed Marvel's villains to stand out in ways that go beyond just being obstacles for the heroes. But in the DCEU, despite having some of the most iconic heroes ever created, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, their films have often felt disconnected or rushed. Instead of building momentum, it's like they've been trying to hit a home run with every movie without laying the groundwork. And that's where things start to fall apart. While Marvel nurtured its characters over time, DCEU's heroes often feel like they're just placed on a pedestal without earning the audience's emotional connection. And then there's the villains, especially in Marvel's case. Villains like Loki, who starts out as a mischievous antagonist but grows into a more complex, relatable figure. These are given the space to develop. We've seen his struggles, his motivations, and even moments of vulnerability. Compare that to DCEU heroes like Superman, who's introduced in Man of Steel as brooding and distant. Sure, he's powerful, but where's the charm, the relatability? It's hard to connect with a character who feels more like a symbol than a person. What makes Marvel villains like Thanos, Loki, and Killmonger stick with us long after the movie ends? It's more than just their plans to dominate the universe, it's their presence. Take Thanos, for example. We didn't just meet him in Avengers Infinity War. Marvel was teasing him, building him up for years. We caught our first glimpse of him all the way back in the post-credits scene of the Avengers in 2012, then again in Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014, and a few other brief yet spine-tingling moments. By the time he fully stepped onto the scene, we were already fascinated. He wasn't just a villain, he felt inevitable. It's as if Marvel made us anticipate his every move. And when that snap finally came, it wasn't just a plot twist. It was the moment we'd been holding our breaths for, wondering how the universe could ever recover. That build-up, that tension, it's what made him unforgettable. It's this slow burn, this careful development that makes Marvel's villains so impactful. They're given room to breathe, to evolve. We understand their motives, their conflicts, even their pain. Loki's charm and mischief, Killmonger's emotional depth, these aren't just characters, they're forces we can relate to. They challenge the heroes on a deeper level, not just physically, but emotionally and ideologically. Meanwhile, DCEU's heroes, no matter how powerful, don't have the same build-up. Sure, they come with grand entrances, filled with spectacle and power, but something feels missing. They arrive with a bang, but without the slow burn that draws us in and keeps us hooked. We don't get to sit with their motivations or see their struggles unfold in a way that makes us truly care. The heroes are strong, no doubt, but they lack the layers of complexity that make villains like Thanos unforgettable. And this is where the magic happens, when the villain feels more real than the hero. DCEU heroes might leap into action, but Marvel's villains crawl under your skin, making you question their motives, and at times even sympathize with them. While the DCEU heroes might save the day, Marvel's villains challenge our sense of right and wrong, leaving us thinking long after the credits roll. Marvel knows how to let a villain breathe, to give them a presence that lingers long after the movie ends. Think about the first time you saw Loki turn on Thor. He wasn't just evil for the sake of being evil. He was torn, struggling with feelings of inadequacy and the weight of expectation. That inner conflict made him fascinating to watch. We didn't just see a villain. We saw a character who felt real, someone grappling with their identity and choices. Over the course of multiple films, we watched him evolve, showcasing that even villains can change and learn from their mistakes. In the Season 2 finale of Loki, we witnessed a powerful culmination of that growth. When faced with the imminent destruction of the multiverse, Loki stepped up and made a monumental sacrifice. He bravely returned to the TVA's temporal loom and destroyed it, preventing a catastrophic meltdown that could have unraveled every universe. In that moment, he admitted defeat, not in a way that felt weak, but as a true hero, willingly sacrificing himself for the greater good. This act not only solidified his transformation into the god of time, but also demonstrated that even the most complex characters can rise to the occasion. That's what keeps audiences coming back. These characters become more than just stereotypes. They feel like reflections of their own struggles and growth. Meanwhile, the DCEU tries to fast-track emotional beats. In Justice League, when Superman returns to fight Steppenwolf, it should have been an epic game-changing moment, but instead it felt hollow, almost like it was expected rather than earned. There was no sense of wonder, no feeling of, wow, he's back. Instead, it was more like, oh, there's Superman. Cool. This lack of build-up robbed the moment of its weight, making it feel like just another checkbox on a list rather than a climatic turning point. Now compare that to the moment when Thanos snapped his fingers at the end of Infinity War, a moment that left the theater in stunned silence. People weren't just watching, they were invested. That emotional punch hit hard because it was built on years of storytelling and character development. We were deeply connected to the stakes, to the fear and hope woven into every scene. In contrast, when Superman returned, it was as if we were waiting for a punchline that never landed, leaving us craving the emotional depth that had been so masterfully crafted in the Marvel Universe. And that's the real kicker. Marvel's villains don't just make an impact during the movie. They leave ripples that carry through the entire universe. After Infinity War, fans were left reeling, desperate to know how the remaining Avengers would undo the devastation Thanos had caused. The emotional toll was real, both for the characters and the audience. Marvel's villains shake things up in a way that makes you care about what happens next. In contrast, the DCEU's heroes haven't had that same effect. After Superman's return in Justice League, the emotional stakes felt low. Sure, he saved the day, but what were the lasting consequences? Where was the sense of loss? The tension that drives future films? It's like the DCEU wants to reset the board after every movie, while Marvel keeps the game going, building upon what came before. Marvel's villains like Thanos, Loki, and Killmonger aren't just memorable because they're cool or powerful. They resonate because they challenge the heroes in ways that make the entire story feel more meaningful. These villains are not mere obstacles. They are reflections of the hero's own struggles, fears, and aspirations. They push the narrative forward, forcing the heroes to evolve, to question themselves, and to ultimately grow stronger. Think about Killmonger's motivations, his desire for justice rooted in a painful past that echoes the realities of systemic oppression. When he confronts T'Challa, it's not just a battle of fists, it's a clash of ideologies that forces both the characters and the audience to reflect on important social issues. That's why we remember these villains. Not just because they create chaos, but because they challenge our heroes to become better versions of themselves. The DCEU heroes, on the other hand, haven't been given the same opportunity to evolve or connect with the audience on that deeper level. They're iconic in theory, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, but their cinematic portrayals haven't reached the emotional heights we've seen with Marvel villains. Until the DCEU takes the time to invest in its heroes the way Marvel invests in its villains, it's going to continue to feel like they're falling behind in the race for our attention. And speaking of evolution, even Spider-Man faced a reboot after creative differences between studios and directors. This led to unexpected twists in his story that not only transformed the character, but also redefined what it means to be a superhero in the modern era. We talk about that in this video over here.